What is up, guys? Nick McVicker and Josh Palermo with you. Although Josh has gone MIA temporarily, so just Nick McVicker at the moment. And folks, we got a very, very interesting show for you today because we got a lot to talk about. We missed last week. I know. I'm sorry. We had some family stuff going on with me. I had to deal with it. But we do have a lot to talk about because, there's MLS going on. We have some CPL action to talk about. And, we could start there. We got TFC. They pick up a big win in the Leagues Cup. We got York United in the CPL, 4-1 victors. Forge with a 3-0 victory. So much going on. And, we could start there. We could start with the women's national team. They could pick up 2 wins off the hop, get everything started in the right direction at the Olympic Games. But unfortunately, we got to start where I don't think anyone wants to start because there's a big story and we need to break it down. And it is Dronegate. And it sucks because this shouldn't be the case. But this is where we're at. We are in a conversation having to have a conversation about drones and the Canadian national team. And it's something that no one wants to talk about. Let's be honest here. This is something that shouldn't happen at all. This is not something that we want to be talking about, but it's something we have to talk about. And let's go back. We will walk through the timeline here, folks, because I think it's important that we do. And let's start all the way back to the 23rd. So I believe that was last Tuesday. A non-accredited member of the Canadian Soccer Association, someone who was there to support the team, gets detained by French police for using a drone outside of the New Zealand football practice. So New Zealand's women's team was training. There was a drone caught, and it happened to be flown by a non-accredited member of Canada Soccer. Someone who wasn't accredited by the Olympics, but someone who was part of the support staff. Well, then more comes out. This non-accredited member is Joey Lombardi. Those in the Ontario soccer scene know him very, very well. He runs the NDC women's team in League One Ontario, as well as being with the Excel program for Canada Soccer. So this is a guy who's been around for a while. He kind of knows what's up. And someone that I actually know personally, and we'll get into that later. He was then charged and consequently convicted of flying a drone in airspace that it is illegal to fly drones in. You cannot fly drones in Paris. They do not allow it. They do not allow drones. So that's one thing. Then comes out that Canada Soccer is sending not only Joey Lombardi home, and they are also sending the assistant coach that Lombardi reports to home. Notice I didn't say Bev Priestman, because Bev Priestman at this point was not sent home, because at that same time, she put out a statement saying she doesn't condone this, didn't know it was happening, and that she would be taking herself out of the New Zealand match as the head coach. A lot of people thought that might be it. Oh, no. Some great reporting from multiple sources. TSN's Rick Westhead is one of the leaders in this right now. Found out that this is not the first time it's happened. Canada Soccer has been alleged to have been using drones since 2019. Who was the coach back then? Oh, interesting question. We'll get to that as well. But all of this comes out that this is something that has been happening for a while. And not only has it been happening for a while, it is almost a mandatory thing for support staff and contractors who work with Canada Soccer. As the reporting continued to come out over and over, we saw more news, more of the news cycle was brought up through this. We found out that former contractors who were supposed to go to an event with the women's team said that they did not want to participate in the drone usage and subsequently had their tickets pulled, their flight tickets pulled to go to the event. So now we're seeing this is more than just a one-time thing. This is more than just something that happens on occasion. This seems to be happening consistently for the women's team. And then it comes out that the men's team has also been partaking in this. Oh, yeah. Hello, John Herdman of TFC, someone who has participated with both sides. We're getting more information daily, and then Canada Soccer has to come out and put a statement out saying, we do not condone this. We are sending Bev Priestman home. Okay, well, Bev Priestman is no longer coaching in the Olympics. Okay, well, maybe we thought that was it. No, it is not. Because then FIFA comes out after Canada's game against New Zealand, which they won, by the way, 2-1. Comeback victory after a very early, kind of messy goal for New Zealand. Canada comes back, wins 2-1, dominated that game. They looked very good in that match. FIFA comes out after New Zealand protested and a few other countries were very upset about this, and rightfully so. This is cheating. We are using drones to spy on closed training sessions. FIFA comes out and docks Canada's women's team 6 points in the Olympic tournament and suspends Joey Lombardi, the assistant coach, and Bev Priestman for 1 year from all FIFA-related soccer activities. They also fine Canada Soccer. I don't know the exact amount off the top of my head. I will find it. But they fine Canada Soccer. And that seems to be it. But it's not completely it, as there's still more to come, because Canada then goes out, beats France, and subsequently appeals the 6-point punishment. They do not want to appeal the fine. They do not want to appeal the suspensions of the 3 coaches. But Canada appeals the 6-point deduction from their staff. So we are now at the point where we're looking at this from the outside looking in. And I want to welcome Josh into the show because, I mean, why not? He's been waiting. So I'm going to bring you in now, Josh. I went through the whole timeline of what's kind of gone on in the last week after the allegations come out and after everything happens. We're now at the point where Canada has been deducted 6 points, but they are appealing the deduction. They are not appealing the suspensions of Priestman, the assistant coach, and Joseph Lombardi. And they are not appealing the fine to CSA. They are just appealing the 6-point deduction. First off, I want to get your thoughts on, as the news broke a week ago, what went through your head?
Oh my goodness, just all kinds of different emotions. I think the biggest thing was disappointment. You know, that's what struck first, and then just immediate frustration after the fact. It's something that truly makes no sense to me. I really couldn't wrap my head around it and why this was happening. And then, I mean, I'll be jumping ahead a little bit, but to find out that this was something that had persisted, like it's been a thing since 2019. There's been reports.
Actually, it's also come out later. I know I said that in the timeline. It has come out since then that this could go back all the way to 2014.
Oh my God, I didn't even see that.
Yeah, it's more of a minor one, and they're not really sure if it's a credible source saying it, but it could go back even further than 2019. We're going to use 2019 as our base point because that's what's been shown, but there's been other reports that potentially it could have gone on even longer.
So that's just it, right? Why is that something that we have to resort to? I don't understand why game tape's not enough. I really just can't wrap my head around the decision making. Like it makes absolutely no sense to me. And like Bev Priestman, in my opinion, she's not. It's difficult to say. I wouldn't regard her as one of the greatest coaches, in the sport. That being said, what she was able to achieve with this women's team in the Olympics in Tokyo was absolutely incredible. And to now walk away feeling like that's been tainted is very, very upsetting. And it's really heartbreaking for us fans and especially the players, because it's just, I highly doubt that there was transparency with regards to that. And that's seems to be what I've been seeing so far, is that the players weren't aware that this was happening. You're putting trust in your coach to adequately prepare you for these big matches. And I don't think that you're ever going to assume that they're going out of their way and disrespecting the integrity of the game by cheating in this respect. You know what I mean? So it's just, it's tough. It's tough. I'm really, how I'm talking right now, as I felt at the time, just a scramble of emotions. You know what I mean? It's just like you can't pick one clear thing to say this is exactly what I'm pissed about. It's like it all comes together, and it's just really, it's an unfortunate thing. It's truly an unfortunate thing.
Yeah, and I struggle because the non-accredited member, Joey Lombardi, who was there as a support staff, I know Joey. Anyone who's been in the Ontario soccer community over the last 10, 15 years knows Joey. This is not something Joey would just do on his own. But he goes through the whole trial, and everyone kind of just throws him under the bus saying, we didn't know anything about this. He did this on his own. And I'm reading that as someone who's been around this guy. I'm like, there's no way. Not a chance. And then it starts coming out, oh, yeah, no, they knew. And yet he's the only one coming home with a criminal charge against him. Like that... I don't like that. And yes, I know technically FIFA has suspended him, the assistant coach, and Bev all for the same amount, 1 year. But like, it doesn't sit right with me. This whole thing doesn't sit right. And I know people are jumping in on Rick Westhead for unearthing all this stuff. It's like, no, we need that. Like, Rick Westhead is one of the best reporters in Canada because he has to do the work that no one else wants to do. Do you think people want to unearth the fact that Canada Soccer has been a mess for 5 years using drones and, I mean, all the other stuff he's found out over the past year with Canada Soccer? Or what about when we're talking, or 2 years, I guess, because we're going back to the World Cup in Qatar. What about all the stuff that he does with the junior hockey, and we hear all the sexual assault scandals that come out from all these sports? Do you think he wants to cover that? I guarantee that's not what he went into this industry to cover. So he's doing the work no one else is willing to do, and people are jumping all over him. I hate it so much. All of this because Canada Soccer cannot put a system in place to protect the players because they allow coaches to do whatever they want because there was no system in place. And I'm really hopeful that the current leadership with Kevin Blue and everyone else that they've brought in over the last 2 years since everything blew up before Qatar, I really hope that they see this and they say, we can't just gloss over things. We need a full-scale breakdown of what is going on in our system because we cannot have this happen anymore. And yes, for anyone who says, oh, well, we're not the only country that's doing this, okay, what's your point? We're the only ones dumb enough to get caught. We're the only ones stupid enough to fly a drone in a country where you cannot fly drones. It's literally illegal in France to fly a drone, which is why Mr. Lombardi is coming home with a criminal record. And yet, we are here talking about the fact that other countries do this. Have they been caught? No. We're the only ones stupid enough to get caught. And you know what? It's the Olympics, so I'm going to go back. You want to know who else got caught the last time we did something really, really cool? Oh, yeah, that 100-meter sprinter back in the day. He got caught. He wasn't the only one doing it. But whoever gets caught is the one who's going to get punished. And we got caught. So throw that out the window. Cheating is cheating. I don't care if everyone else is doing it. It is cheating. And to be honest, flying drones over practice, I've practiced for years. This beautiful game, Josh. I love this game. I've practiced for so many years. If you flew a drone over my team's practices, you would not get any information. Nothing. Other than the fact that we were in pretty good shape because we ran a lot at practice. We didn't work on set pieces very frequently. We didn't have set plays, right? I know the professionals probably have more than we did, but you're not picking up a lot, especially 2 or 3 days before a game. You're not working on a whole lot that's new. We have all the film on all these teams. We have everything you could possibly
makes
want.
No sense.
What you don't need an analyst who can fly a drone. You need an analyst who can break down game film. What are we doing here? This is the stupidest way to cheat in world football. It's the stupidest way to cheat because you can't pick up anything.
Yeah.
This isn't like the NFL or the CFL or like American football where like you can literally pick up plays or pick up audibles at practice because that's all they do. They run plays. You don't do that. There's a lot of open-ended games. You play like open-ended. Maybe you work a little bit on free kicks, but you're not working on the same play over and over again. You're going to try a couple things and just have a general, okay, hand up means we're going to the far post. Hand down means we're going to the near post. Switch it up at halftime. Okay, well, if they pick it up early, okay, we're going to switch earlier. That's usually what happens. Like, that's how it works. 2 arms up means, okay, I'm going to do a driven ball, right? Like, yeah, maybe you could pick up on that, but you still need to stop the ball at that point. Like, it's not like it's going to necessarily help you because maybe they change the call and maybe 2 hands up means we're doing a long lofted ball to the far post. Like, there's so
it's not
many
a big
ways.
enough risk to take for
No.
the lack of tactical advantage that you're getting because you're not really gaining that greater of an upper hand over your opponent. This
No.
isn't baseball. It's not the Houston Astros in 2017. Like you're not going to see exactly what pitch is coming next. Yes, you still got to hit it, but it's that's the whole thing, right? Why is this the issue? Why did we put all of our eggs in this basket and now have this be our tainted reputation? It's stupid. And then when you go back to the other thing, I think you lose sight of the issue when you say other teams have been doing it. You know, when fans say that because it is absolutely absurd that Joey Lombardi was then put in this position. Then that goes back to there needs to be systems put in place by Canada Soccer to ensure that staff members are not being put at risk because that's just like that. Whatever you want to say, like you can't. Excuse me, you can't allow them internally to say, "Well, this is part of the job description," because I believe that's
It was literally on the job description for support
what
staff.
had been reported by an anonymous person who was a member of the staff. Yeah, like how is that possible? How is that allowed to happen?
Well, no,
why
but
are we
like
putting these people at risk?
I get having drone use at your own practices so you can break stuff down. So being able to fly
No,
a
but
drone,
I think it was like it was genuinely
it was a
deliberately
specific
expressed
point that
it
you
was
have to
be
have
spying on.
No,
other
that's not
teams.
that. No, it's not. That's not what was reported. They literally
Oh,
had
that wasn't how I
no.
read.
They literally had okay. So you have the job description, right? You have the little bullet points of everything that qualifies you, right? It said drone use is a needed skill. Didn't specify what use, but it like so. Yeah, if you want to keep that on there because you wanted fly drones over your own practice so you can break down film with a specific player. Say, hey, I saw you do this and you didn't hit the ball cleanly, and then you did it this way and you hit it cleanly. Make sure you're trying to do that consistently, right? Now, are you going to get a whole lot of that from your own practices? No, you're not. But I get at least that makes more sense because you can work on something with your specific players. Pulling drone footage from a practice or even 2 practices from an opponent is not going to help you. It's just not.
No.
So why are we why did we do this? I don't get it. And then the coaches come out, Bev Priestman came out and said, "I don't condone this. I've never heard that this was happening." Liar. I'm sorry. That's a lie. And John Herdman said the same thing in his TFC press conference, which by the way is a joke. But he said, no, I didn't know this was happening if it was, and I'm going to fully cooperate in the investigation. Well, yeah, no duh. If you didn't fully cooperate, that'd be more questions, right? Like, there's no way they didn't know. In fact, I guarantee one of them, I don't know which one, but one of them is probably the one that implemented the idea.
Well, I mean, they did work together, right? And
they worked together on the women's staff.
Yes. It was that was a crazy thing that I had read was that when you look back at John Herdman's quote after Honduras had made a complaint that said there had been a drone that we saw flying over our practice, he goes, people like to fly drones.
Yeah.
You know? It's just maybe they were interested in the fact that you folks were in Canada. You know, you never know what's going on in CONCACAF. It's just people fly. It's like, really? That's your response? Like that doesn't build you any sort of a case whatsoever. It does not bode well for me at all. It's like, it's absurd. Like, I know that we're looking back after the fact, and I'm looking at it through that lens to be able to say that. But yeah, I don't doubt for a single second that. Yeah, I don't doubt for a single second that it was a thing where honestly Herdman could have implemented it. Now I know you want to talk. You said that perhaps 2014, but we're going to use 2019 as our baseline. I can see a world in which this was what Herdman wanted to do because he felt it could give his teams a time with Bev Priestman as well. And you pick up on that and you say, well, this is what we're going to do.
Yep. Yeah. 100%.
And that just can't happen. That just can't happen. It's
so
stupid.
I think the question now becomes, I want to talk about the punishments a little bit, right? because we've beat this to death. There's no reason to be doing this, and yet we got caught because we're foolish. You know what I mean? But let's talk about the punishments, because the punishments are pretty stiff, right? The 3 coaches are suspended for a year. Canada, the women's team, docked 6 points in a tournament where you play 3 games and each game's worth 3 points. Like, makes it very complicated. Now, I want to give them a lot of credit. They've won both their games. They beat France yesterday and looked very good in the second half for sure. First half was kind of back. First half was kind of back and forth. It was an even game in the first half.
We came out hot. Which
was we did, and then France kind of leveled it out. But it was a
good football match.
That first half was very even, in my opinion. If we're talking complete 45, I would say that's a pretty even first half. And then Canada dominated really well. Dominated is probably a harsh term, but Canada was the better side. They were the better side in the second half.
100%.
They were. And Heidema looked good. I know people were kind of ripping on her, trying to say that she doesn't deserve to be on the pitch. Nah, she looked pretty good. Janine Becky looked really good when she was on the pitch, but she's dealing with something. She has to be, because I don't know why if she's not starting, which, hey, I understand, because the other players have been playing more. If she's not starting, the fact that she couldn't finish a full second half, that raises some flags for me, because she's hurt. Yeah. The other person I want to really shout out is Jade Rose. She looked phenomenal in that game.
Absolutely incredible.
Phenomenal.
Absolutely incredible.
And then Vanessa.
What is it with Canada turning out these young center halves that are just so poised?
And then obviously the goal scorer, Vanessa Gilles, with a great rebound finish. Fleming as well, same thing. Love it. They've done their part, right? And they've proven that they don't need this extra video that they've probably never seen anyway. And I'm going to say probably because there's no way to prove that.
Listen, I don't think that there was any situation in which they were watching these tapes backwards. I can't possibly conceive that being the thing.
I agree, but I don't want to say it's not possible.
That's true.
Right? Because it is possible. There is a chance that they did watch them. I don't want to believe it, and I don't think they did. Based on everything that we're hearing from past players and everything, I don't think they did.
Because like Sink had come out and made a statement.
Sink, Matheson,
spoke exactly that
Labe, all of them came out.
Yeah, all of them came out.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't want to say that it didn't happen because there's no way to prove that, but I also believe that they did not participate in that kind of thing. So I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt while still keeping it as a possibility that we may find out that they did know and did watch the video. Now, aside from that, they've done their part to prove that that everything that they've done over the past 5 years is them, not the coaches. And good on them. But they were docked 6 points, and now they're at 0 points, despite winning 2 games. And still somehow have a chance to win their group. Somehow have a chance to win their group. If New Zealand beats France and Canada beats Colombia, Canada wins the group unless New Zealand wins by 7. Canada will win the group.
What an arc that would be.
Now, more realistically, if Canada beats Colombia and France beats New Zealand, Canada will go through as a second place team.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
But they shouldn't even have to be in that situation to begin with, because I think that it is a ridiculously, it's way too harsh of a punishment. It makes absolutely no sense, because I don't feel like it speaks to the issue that's actually at hand. To deduct them 6 points, if you want to take 3 points away from the fact that they spied on the New Zealand match, and we already spoke to this, I mean, those 2 practices that they got video on, is that really going to make the biggest difference? I don't think so.
No, but I understand why New Zealand's pissed.
Yes, and New Zealand can be, and that's why if you want to take 3 points away from that match, go right ahead. 6 points? I mean, come on. This is an issue that's existed for, well, now we can see, quite some time, right? Nothing has been absolutely proven. But whatever. That's not pertaining to this tournament. There's absolutely no reason why they have to be in the hole. We shouldn't be entering match day 2 with negative 3 points, because these women don't deserve that. These players do not deserve that. I think it does an absolute disservice to these players who put trust in their coach, who they thought would honestly do everything that she possibly could to adequately prepare these players. You put trust in your players. I think that has to be the ultimate sense of betrayal. That is
it has to be. It has to be.
How could Bev Priestman do that to them? I don't need these apologies after the fact either. It's all BS. That's the infuriating part of it.
She hasn't even really apologized either.
No, she came out through her lawyers and made a statement yesterday before the game. Why do you have to say that before the game? Anyways, I think there's just been so much in these players' heads, so much that they've had to deal with consistently failed by this organization. And then FIFA wants to come down and drop the hammer. I think it's too much. I think
And
it's
the problem,
unnecessary.
well, okay, but here's the problem, and I'm going to come at it from the other side, right? FIFA's not punishing the players. The players are just the side of it. FIFA is punishing Canada Soccer.
Yeah.
FIFA is punishing Canada Soccer for what it's allowed to have happened over the past at least 5 years.
Don't do that in this tournament because that's just wrong.
But what else are they going to do?
I think that you fine the
They
organization.
did.
I think that you deduct there you go. You deduct the 3 points, and then you want to talk about repercussions.
But the thing is, I'm just using this because it's like this is the reasoning. Is they're not trying to punish the players because I think they understand that it's probably not the players, but they have to punish Canada Soccer. And how do you punish
the
a
issue
team?
is indirectly it does that.
You're right, but here's the thing: how are you going to punish a association the most?
You deduct points, and
You deduct points because if they can't get out of their group, they lose money.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
Sucks.
a tough way for things to break down. For me, in a club setting, and I think for a lot of people, it becomes a little bit easier to stomach because it's a whole different. It's structured entirely differently.
Yes.
The fact that you only get 3 matches, those points mean a lot more. Not that they don't in the same way, but it's just it's a completely different scope. It's a completely different scope.
I see what you're saying. Club soccer, you can lose 10 points and you're not, but you can lose 10 points in club soccer, and if you're a good side, like this Canada women's team is, if you are a good side, that means you're not going down. Right? You could lose 20 points in some of these leagues if you're a good side and you're not getting relegated. Right? You might not win the trophy, I get that, but you're not getting relegated. Right? In a tournament like this, you are out after 3 games.
That's why it's problematic. I don't think that the women's team deserves to be the scapegoat for this either, right? Because if we want,
it happened more with the women's team based on all the reporting. It's happened more with the women's side. But yes, you're right. I'm not arguing your point. I'm just saying that's what most of the reporting is showing.
No, 100%. I guess when I look at it that way, when you want to think about punishing the organization, there obviously is a lot to be taken into account with this whole thing. It's just I don't think that this is the tournament, and I don't think that this is the team.
Okay, but what if
the players don't deserve to be punished?
All right, ready for this? I'm going to give you a hypothetical situation. What if this happened ahead of the Qatar World Cup? Like if this came out 3 days before Qatar, Canada was playing Belgium in their first match, and Canada was caught spying using drones on the Belgian practice. Does it change what the punishment should be?
I think it's the exact same situation where I think that you deduct the points from that match.
Okay.
And then you say, that's it.
Okay.
But
we both agree. I think we both agree on this, that point deduction should occur. Maybe not to the 6-point deduction that it is, but they probably should lose the 3 points. And Belgium shouldn't gain the 3 points unless they had won the game. You know what I mean? If this was the World Cup. Or in this case, New Zealand shouldn't just gain 3 points. They shouldn't get an automatic win. They need to have won the game. And they didn't. Canada won that game and dominated that game. New Zealand's goal was well worked, but it was also messy from Canada's defense. Canada dominated that game. They did not need. By the way, can we talk about how the fact that this was caught spying on New Zealand, a team that has not beat us since 2007, and has no business being on the same park if we are playing at our best? Why? Like maybe France. I would understand it more with France. If it was France, I would have understood it more. But we got caught spying on New Zealand, man. Like
it's so nonsensical to every single degree. Every aspect of this is completely nonsensical. Right? It's absurd. That's what's so infuriating.
And I mean, Canada has appealed the 6-point deduction. That came out today. They are appealing it. As COC and Canada Soccer together are going to FIFA to say, hey, we think the 6 points. We're going to take the fines. We're going to take the 3-year-long suspensions for the coaches. We don't think 6 points is fair, right? And who knows? We might find out right before their next match, because the next match is on the 31st, which is Wednesday.
Wednesday, and I think that's what they said. They said the announcement would be made Wednesday.
It would come out just before our final match.
Yeah.
So there's a chance, very small chance, there is a chance that Canada is already guaranteed a spot in the next round. But we won't know until right before the match. You know what I mean? Like it's one of these weird situations that we just need to kind of wait and let it play out, which sucks. But Canada does, the women's team does have a very realistic chance to move forward. And we said before the tournament that anything less than a quarterfinal sort of thing was unacceptable.
Yeah.
Does that change, like, with the 6-point deduction? Let's say the 6-point deduction doesn't get... If they somehow don't make it out of this group with the 6-point deduction, do you see this as a failure for the players?
No, not for the players.
Okay.
Whatsoever.
I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page.
To have to contend with everything, like not at all. No.
Okay. So we go back. Now, let's talk about Bev herself. And then I want to get into John Herdman as well, because that's a different side to this. Bev Priestman comes out when it happens, says, I knew nothing about this, but as a courtesy, I'm going to sit myself out for one match because I think that's only the right thing to do, right? And at the time, people are like, okay, I don't know if we believe that, but sure, sit out the one match against New Zealand because you may have seen footage, whatever. Then it comes out this has been happening for a while, and she gets suspended. She gets sent home by Canada Soccer and the COC. And then we find out she gets suspended for a year. Will she ever coach for Canada again?
No. I think that she has to be fired. My question, honestly, is why hasn't she been fired already?
Well, they're mid-tournament.
Is that the thing? You just can't do that? I don't understand.
No, you can. I just don't see it happening mid-tournament because then it becomes... It's just a whole thing. I kind of get that. There's way too much going on around it that you kind of... The other thing might be that part of the suspension is they have to keep her on staff for the year, and then they can let her go at the end of the year. That's another thing. I don't know. I need to know the wording around the FIFA ruling, and we're never going to get that as fans. I don't even know. Media won't really get that either. So, like, that becomes a different kind of issue. If the case is that... Sorry, go ahead.
No, you have to clean house. You have to go from a fresh start. And that's what Kevin Blues tried to do. And that's what I think is so frustrating, was it's like he steps in, and then we hire Jesse Marsh, and then you feel like the tides are changing. I just... There was so much more optimism. You know what I mean? Like, yes, we know Canada soccer is a mess, and there's so many ups and downs. And it's just like, oh, my God, we finally have overcome this. This is fantastic. The men did great at the Copa. The women are coming off of winning a gold medal at the last Olympics. This is going to be an epic tournament. And then this happens. I've lost all respect for Beth Priestman. All respect for Beth Priestman. So just, God, how do you do that? Like I said before, that's the ultimate betrayal. How do you do that to your players, and how do you make a mockery of Canada soccer? And that's what it does. And the unfortunate thing is, I think now, I'm speculating, but I think it all roots back to John Herdman, and that's the other thing that pisses me off too. But I'll get back to that in a second. That's you have to bring somebody else in, because also, like, if I am a player and she walks back into the locker room, no, go right back out that door.
There's no trust.
I have no trust in you whatsoever. Like, and she's been privy to everything that has happened, everything that this women's side has had, the women's side has had to deal with. She's seen it. How could she do this? How could she add to that? You know what I mean? So yeah, you got to bring somebody else in. I mean, the assistant coaches seem to be doing quite well up to this point.
Okay, but here's the thing.
Been playing fantastic.
Here's the thing, though. Ready? You just said they have to clean house with Bev Priestman. How many of these assistant coaches were also part of this? How many of these assistant coaches knew this was going on? If you're going to clean house, unfortunately, everyone's gone. Yep. Everyone. And I don't know if that's fair, but that's where we're at.
I think that, like, from a surely logistical standpoint, like clearly logistical standpoint, I think you have to. I think you have. It's unfortunate because, yeah, people are losing their jobs. But also, I don't know. It's complicated because how much of this actually falls on Canada Soccer? Like, where does the blame entirely fall? Is it Canada Soccer for not actually doing more to have systems put in place? Because Kevin Blue said this is a systemic issue. So,
yeah. Well, he's found out it's a systemic issue. I don't think he knew that beforehand, unfortunately.
No, of course not. Of course. Yes. Well, that's the point. Like, fucking just what a mess. What a mess. But that's just it. Where does the blame entirely fall? And that all has to be taken into account as well.
Yeah, and
But
we could also see changes on the men's side because Jesse Marsh was apparently someone tried to do the same thing ahead of the Copa, and Marsh is like, no. I don't know how much I believe that either, but I also don't think Marsh is putting up with it. So maybe there's going to be assistant coaches let go from that side too. Like, unfortunately, it sounds like everyone on the women's team is an accomplice in this.
Well, yeah, I mean,
whether they knowingly were an accomplice or not, they may just have to bite the bullet because other than the players right now, who it doesn't seem watched any film that wasn't like actual game film from the sounds of everything, everyone else could have in coaches' meetings, in whatever. I want to see where all these text message and email chains go and who's connected to them. There's way too much going on, and unfortunately, I think some good coaches are going to be caught in the crossfire and will not be with Canada Soccer moving forward, who probably should be. I think there's coaches that are with Canada Soccer right now who I wouldn't be sad to see go. I think there's coaches that were with Canada Soccer that are no longer with Canada Soccer that also need to be punished. And let's get to John Herdman and his TFC staff, which is mostly former Canada Soccer staff. If I have to preface this because I want to make sure I'm not implicating anybody. Let's say that John Herdman did this and his staff did this while he was with Canada Soccer. That means him, Jason DeVos, and one other coach on the TFC side need to be suspended for a year at least from FIFA-sanctioned events, i.e. TFC.
Yeah.
That's a problem. That's a
100%.
big issue for TFC and all their fans because they're not exactly in a great spot right now, but they're better than they were last year.
Where have they been?
They're in a better spot than they were last year. But that means at least one of your main assistant coaches, Jason DeVos. And again, I'm not saying any of these guys actually did because there's no proof of that yet. And I am not implementing.
We get into the speculations.
Right. This is the hypothetical. I'm just putting it out there as what happens if they are found to have done this. Right. That's 3 coaches on the staff that are now out for, let's say, a year. But I mean, they could be let go. Anything could happen. TFC's now in a bad spot, too, because they aren't like a national team where they play every few months and you could kind of get away with an interim coach for a little bit because you only play 4 games for the rest of the year, right? There's only 2 more international windows. TFC has like 4 games in the next 3 weeks. You can't exactly get away with that for a club side. This becomes a huge problem for them.
Oh, yeah.
And something that they didn't sign up
right now, for sure.
They didn't sign up for that.
No, and that's why. Oh, geez, honestly, I feel that it is the case that there definitely needs to be a thorough investigation launched,
100%. And it sounds like they're doing that. Kevin Blue came out with his statement saying that they're having a third-party outside organization do a thorough investigation, which is great. That's how it should be.
And if it is found that John Herdman was also using drones and instructing his coaching staff to do the same, he has to face the same punishment that Bev Priestman's had to face and the other staffers as a part of the Canadian women's soccer team. You have to.
Yep.
And that's just what it is. I think that everybody should be punished equally in that sense because I shouldn't go back to it, but yes, I think that he's kind of the root of this issue. It does put Toronto FC in a tough spot, and that's the unfortunate thing. Is like this is such a large issue with so many implications, and that's why we're talking about it right now. But yeah, Jesus. Yeah, I think John, if it is found out that he was doing the same thing and he was instructing him, he has to face a year ban.
Yeah,
no questions asked.
Yeah,
and the rest of his staff.
And that's the thing is that then now an organization that had no idea that this was going on in MLSE, right? Now is put behind the 8 ball where they have 3 suspended coaches that they just signed. Let's not remember these guys just signed in the last year. Well, now you gotta clean house and restart again. That is awful. That is so much turnover for the players involved, everybody involved. And there's nothing you can do about it. Nothing at all. Because you just have to face the fact that the coach that you brought in made a mistake. Or maybe it wasn't a mistake. Maybe it was a choice. Again, this is a hypothetical, right? It's not been proven that Herdman, although there was something that said that he showed players drone footage of a practice, which then it becomes does the men's team in a problem because it was the men's team that got shown actual drone footage. So now the players could be involved on that side. There's so much more to come out of this. We're not even close to the end of this, which sucks.
We just started.
Like, it
This
sucks.
it's gonna hang around us for quite some time, and it's just like, okay, great, all the strides that we made at the World Cup, all the strides that we made at the Copa America, and trying to prove to the world, yes, we are a footballing nation. I think all that immediately goes out the window. We're a laughingstock again. Like,
are we a
it's
laughing
just getting
stock, or
started.
are we just the idiots that forgot that we couldn't fly a drone in Paris?
Well, I think that makes us a laughingstock. I think that's stupid. I think when you phrase it like you did, which is you flew a drone in a country where it's illegal to fly drones, like that's like that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. I'm
It's
like,
so true, though.
that's so bush league. That's so bush league. What an absolute joke! Like, we just continuously shoot ourselves in the foot, and it's just so infuriating. Like, it's so frustrating as a Canada soccer fan because it's just like. That's why I made a post when I had reposted the graphic announcing that there had been a 6-point deduction. I played Olivia Rodrigo's 1 step forward, 3 steps back. Unironically, because it's just what it is.
It feels like if we're gonna talk about that, it feels like the players have constantly been getting better throughout the last, I want to say, like 30 years. But it's Canada Soccer, the CSA, that keeps tripping over themselves. Like the players,
How do you do that?
the players are going like this. We'll go this way. Players are going like this. They're constantly getting better, going up, up, up. And Canada Soccer, if we're going to put them in the same line, right? Canada Soccer started like this, and then they maybe peaked a little bit while the players kept going up, and then they kept there, maybe going a little bit, and then they'll go back down, and maybe back up a little bit, and then back down. They can't figure out how to continue that positive trajectory.
Yeah.
It's like, why do we have to keep kicking ourselves in the foot? Right?
It's just a
Like,
joke.
we're tripping over our own stupidity at this point.
Like, it feels like we have some honest to God gems and wonderful talents that are coming through, and it's like you have the opportunity to have a wonderful program. Like, it feels like you're wasting this talent in a way. It's like, I don't understand. This has the opportunity to be so great, but we can't get stuff together. We cannot get stuff together.
I know what you wanted to say there.
Yes, exactly. It's just it angers me to no end. And it harms the players, it harms the fans, it harms the sport in this country. And it's just like, how is that possible? How is it possible that we always seem we've come so far? Pat ourselves on the back. Oh yeah, by the way, that happened. Did you see that?
We just can't get out of our own way. That's really what the big issue is right now. We just can't get out of our own way. And I've had conversations with you about this as someone who came up through the Ontario system, so I'm going to narrow it down a little bit. I never got to the Canada level, but I was a provincial level player. I played through the Ontario system. I know it well enough, or at least what it used to be. And it was a mess back then too. Like, it's not like this hasn't been going on for, like, we're talking drones for the last 5 years, but it's not like stupid things haven't been going on in soccer in this country for years. Like, it's always been this way. We go back to the first World Cup appearance, and since then, we've been a mess. Like, the CSA has been a mess since our first men's World Cup appearance. Let me specify that.
Yes, specify.
And we can't figure it out. We can't get out of our own way. And now we put ourselves behind the 8 ball once again. And the women are doing everything they can, and the men's team as well. Jesse Marsh and the men's team are trying to do everything they can to put us back in the right direction. But there's so much going on behind the scenes that they have no control over that they're being blamed for. And it's not fair. It's really not. And there's nothing that we can do about it. Nothing at all.
No.
Nothing the players can do about it.
I don't understand. It's like, yes, I guess there's growing pains when you're just trying to find your footing, but like, it's been 40 years. Like,
And the worst
Figure
part
it
is,
out.
the worst part is, like, we as Canadians want to think that we're on the moral high ground on a lot of things. We believe that we normally try to lean on the right side of the line, right? But now I'm going to make this a bigger Canada sports picture for a second here, Josh. This isn't the only sports organization that has been dealing in the moral gray or
Well, no,
even across the line. Like, we
that's
have
exactly what I was
crossed the
going to
line.
say.
Like,
How do you continuously mess this up?
right? Like, we can look at Hockey Canada with all of the sexual assault allegations and covering up all of these things. We can look, I know there's been some swimming stuff. There's been some diving as well. I'm trying to think of other organizations off the top of my head that I know stuff has come out from, and I'm struggling right now. I know there's a bunch, but it's not like this is like the first time we've acted in the moral gray area or even like straight across the line. We aren't as morally on the right side as we think we are, unfortunately,
No,
when it comes to our sporting
at times.
when we talk about our sporting organizations. I think if we're talking general human beings and people in Canada, most of us will lean on the right side of the line. But unfortunately, that's just not the case with our sports organizations, and it's painting us to be one of two things. A, cheaters, or B, unfortunately, idiots.
Yeah.
Or naive.
I don't
Maybe it's naive is the better word, but
like that's the like in my head, is it naivety where you're looking at these systems and you're like I don't understand how there needs to be adequate structure put in place in these organizations, whether that be Canada Soccer, whether that be Hockey Canada. Where are we falling short? Where are the shortcomings that result in us not being able to responsibly handle situations? Like I don't quite understand that. Why are these things allowed to happen, go behind the scenes? Like where?
Well, I feel like Hockey Canada. This is totally off the topic we were talking about, but we're going to go with this. I think Hockey Canada thought they were bigger than everything and could just cover everything up, which is awful, by the way. Not arguing that. Everything that came out about Hockey Canada and everything that needed to come out did, again, thanks to who? Rick Westhead and other prominent deep dive media members.
It's important. It is very important that we have journalists like Rick Westhead.
They thought they were bigger than everything in Canada. They thought they could just cover everything up and no one would bat an eye because they're like, oh, we're winning. We're the best country in hockey. That's an awful way to think about it, but I truly do think, and you can correct me if you think I'm wrong here, Josh, I think that's the case.
Yeah, I know. I don't dispute that whatsoever. I mean, I have my whole other issues with, I think, how, we've gone wrong with hockey in this country, but we don't have to.
But like, I believe that is why they did all these things, because they thought no one was going to call them out on it because they were bigger than everything in this country. Then they realized, well, that's not the case because we're not just one country. You're playing against all these other countries, and they're going to start getting mad, and people are going to start digging deep and trying to figure out what's going on. Eventually, things are going to come out.
No.
And if you're dumb enough to think... Sorry, go ahead.
It's just... No. There needs to be systems put in place. There needs to be better governance that has to happen to understand that everything needs to be run with those systems put in place. Like I don't know, you can't allow stuff like this to happen. You can't allow stuff like this to happen. So there needs to be reform. There needs to be changes made, and like it has to be seriously considered, because that's what it almost feels like. It almost feels like there isn't that consideration put in, because it's like, well, it's sport, and we're gonna organize it in a certain way, but it's just like, no, you have to handle that intelligently and understand that you have to be able to put those things in place and be able to set up proper systems and do all that to eliminate to mitigate these things from happening.
Yep. And
that's what
we're going to it is going to be picked apart over the next few months, years.
Yeah, it's gonna be time.
It will be nitpicked every single step of the way moving forward for this CSA, and we'll be along for the ride. And we'll see. Are they going to be able to turn it around, or is this golden generation for both men's and women's side going to bear the brunt of all of the problems and cause CSA to go backwards even further than they already have? This is the open-ended question that you can think about over the next few years. Let's see it. Exactly. Let's go from Canada soccer and all the mess that has been, and let's go to the CPL, because why not? And I want to start with York, who have had a pretty decent last 2 weeks, tied Vancouver in Vancouver, and then picked up a 4-1 victory against Atletico over the weekend. They're looking really good. First place in the table,
Atletico.
Yeah, first place in the table, Atletico, and they looked really good against Atletico. Flip that over. I want to also talk about Atletico, who lose 4-1 to York, but they also only tied Valor. So they're having a bit of a struggle right now. Now, they're still first. They're still kind of sitting up at the top, but not exactly an ideal situation to be in if you are Atletico and a fan of Atletico, because that's not the direction that you want to go. But they got a point. Not an easy point, but they got a point against Valor, who also, by the way, beat Pacific 3-0 this week. Which I was like, okay, I mean, good for you.
Valor.
They beat them Sunday 3-0 in Victoria. Not even in Winnipeg. They were on the road and they won 3-0. So maybe they found something with that back line, Josh? Starting to figure out the defense a little bit?
I certainly hope so. I would love to see it, because it feels like, they haven't been sitting around the bottom for too long now. And I think that they have good players on that team. And if they could just figure out, if this is the start of something, I will be absolutely stoked. I would love to see that.
Yeah.
Because it's just,
they were 1-1 last
week.
week. Nothing wrong with that. That's not a bad little run there. And then their one loss came to Halifax. They won 3-1 against Valor, and then they got just beaten down by Forge, which, I mean, isn't really a shock, I guess, but they got
It's so painful. It's an
basted,
eyesore.
Man.
You're like, this is, I can't, listen, I feel that slight connection to the Halifax Wanderers because my family's from the East Coast, you know what I mean? So it's like, yes, I love all the CPL teams, big York fan, but also feel that extra connection to Halifax a little bit. And Jesus, man, like,
they got killed.
It sucks. These fans, the best fans in the CPL, I think. You know what I mean? Like, they don't deserve this.
No, and it hasn't been an easy year for them. It hasn't been fun, that's for sure, all the way through. But you're getting some results, and then you're just getting blown out, and that's why they're sitting at the bottom. They're 13 points. They're one back of Valor. It's an interesting year for them, and I do feel bad, but at the same time, like, you got to kind of figure your own thing out, and they're not right now, and there's going to be questions asked because you can't.
No, I think there needs to be some serious reform.
Yeah, there has to be. Be. And then we talk about,
you can see things change so quickly in this league.
Oh,
right? Like, I don't know, we've seen York just turn it around monumentally, but obviously, you know, like we got new owners come in and reshape everything. But it's just like, I mean, look at what they've been able to accomplish in like a year. Like, that's crazy.
They're sitting
you know
2 points back of Atletico, who everyone had as the super team, was going to run away with it, with Forge probably being second, right? York was supposed to be battling for a playoff spot. They're 2 points back of first. Like, and playing really good football. It's not like they're just squeaking out victories. They are playing very, very good football. Probably would like to not have as many goals against, but I know they had a couple big scores early in the season, which didn't help the goal diff. But like 26 goals in 16 games for and 22 against. It's not awful. And they're playing much better lately. Like, there's a lot of positives if you're York. And a team that maybe there's not as many positives because they expected to be higher up. Let's talk about Cavs. This is a team that isn't necessarily playing their best, but they're starting to squeak out results. They had a 1-1 draw with Forge. That's a great result. And then they go into Vancouver and they beat Vancouver 1-0. Like, they're starting to put together results. They've picked up 7 points in their last 4 games.
I could see them going on a great run.
They're sitting in
And
fourth now. They passed Vancouver with
that's
that
what I
win.
mean.
With that win, they passed Vancouver.
Nobody should be counting out Cavs
No.
at all. I
But
hope
they
that's not a
did.
thought in
But
anybody's
we all
minds.
know they expected to be higher. They expected
Yes.
to be pushing for that first place, and the attack just hasn't necessarily been there. They have the second fewest goals for in the entire league. That sounds crazy to me.
That's what's killing them.
And then they have the second fewest, or the fewest goals against in the entire league. But they're only a +2 goal differential. And when you're +2, you're going to have a fairly even record. They're 4 wins, 9 draws, and 3 losses.
It's just it's not
Right?
something's not clicking up top.
They're just not.
So,
They don't have that killer instinct that we're used to seeing from Cavs, and that's what's costing them right now.
well, they just brought in Lowell Wright
They did, yes. The youngster is back in the CPL.
back in the CPL. I'm excited to see. I mean, he was a joy to watch at York. So hopefully that can help figure out some of those scoring issues up top.
It'll be interesting because I don't know if
I think he's a great player.
he's now bounced around, right? So it'll be interesting to see if he can get his footing with Cavs, because they could use it if he could play up to his potential. They could use it for sure. So we'll see. And then the other teams, Vancouver, obviously we already talked about them. Draw and a loss this week, and Pacific only the one match this week, or the last 2 weeks, I should say, and they lost 3-0 to Valor, as we already talked about. They play York on Friday in Victoria. That should be a very interesting match. Now let's flip over to the MLS there, Josh, and we'll go back. We're going back 2 weeks because we obviously didn't have a show last week. TFC, they've played 2 matches. They played 3 matches. I apologize. They got the tar beat out of them against Miami in Miami, 3-1. Followed that up with a 1-0 victory over Montreal, and then pulled out the PK victory against the New York Red Bulls in Leagues Cup.
Dramatic fashion.
Very dramatic fashion. Big shout out to Sean Johnson, because if not, they would have been toast.
So many times this season, Sean Johnson has been that guy.
And you know what? Sean Johnson and Luka Gavron have kept this team in many games this year.
Yeah, Luka Gavron's getting, I think, a little bit too much flack because he has made some mistakes. You know what I mean? But
yeah. And you
I
know
think you
what?
have to
He's
look
young.
past that.
He's young.
That's what I mean.
And some of the mistakes are stuff that you can't have happen. Like, I'm sorry, that one in Atlanta, you can't have that happen. That is an inexcusable mistake for a goalkeeper. Yeah. But at the beginning of the year, when Sean Johnson was hurt and it was Luka Gavron's net,
he stepped up.
He was huge for this side. He
yeah.
put them in the top 3 in the East for a while there. He deserves a lot of credit. Again, he's young. He's going to make mistakes, and it has cost them points. But he deserves some credit. Johnson deserves credit as well, because those two together have kept this TFC team afloat when the players on the pitch have not played well.
Oh, yeah, just flat out, just not.
And now they're playing okay the last few games. I'll give them that. I mean, the 3-1 loss to Miami doesn't help, but I thought they've played better the last few weeks. There's still a lot to be desired, though.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I don't see anything getting any more positive if stuff with John Herdman heads south. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that could derail the entire season.
I have absolutely no optimism. I think it's impossible to. Yeah, we're so inconsistent. Our star players have not been the star players that they need to be. Our back line has been very inconsistent. I don't think we have enough in the middle of the park. Like, I don't know. Like my initial hope was, well, hopefully we can bring in the right guys during the transfer window and fill in some holes but I don't know. That I like Berna and Insigne. They come over here and they've got to deal with Bob Bradley. And anyways, it's just frustrating. Bill Manning gets the boot, and I'm optimistic again, and then it's just
they're in a playing spot right now. Like, the season's not over. They could do more, but 34 goals and 4 in 26 games. It's not enough. You know what I mean? Like, you need more.
No, we don't have enough striker wise. Like, it's just I don't know.
You need more.
I hope that I can refine my optimism, but it's hard. It's hard when you look at the results, and then when you look at what is foreboding.
Yep.
On the periphery.
They have the 5th fewest goals in the Eastern Conference of MLS. That's not good enough. If you want to go far, you need to score a few more goals.
But they have 2 Euros winners. You know.
And the real problem is they don't have a true out-and-out striker. As good as Prince Owusu
No,
has been at times, they need a true out-and-out striker, and
Stop
he's not there.
playing DeAndre Kerr at the 9. That's been my biggest thing.
I know.
I've
I'm
said it
aware.
for
We've
the
had that
last,
conversation a couple times.
I need every now and then you have to throw it back in there. Get him out of the 9. Let's actually. We had striker depth. We have to figure it back out again. That's the big thing. That's the big thing.
Switching over to Montreal, I already mentioned that they lost to TFC this week. They also tied New York last week, and then they got their doors blown in by Orlando City in the League Cup. They lost 4-1 to Orlando in the League's Cup. That's ugly, man. That's ugly.
Not ideal.
There's not a whole lot of positivity coming out of Montreal these days, and I don't blame them.
I think it's really unfortunate. I don't know. Like I felt like
they have some really good young
brought
players
in the offseason. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like I think that they've brought in solid talent. They have good young talent.
Yep.
Why is that not coming together? And I think that is the extremely frustrating thing for CF Montreal fans. They should not be. They should be playing to a higher level.
Yes. They should be, but when you get rid of your entire back line almost, other than Joel Waterman, who I think is a good player, but has no chemistry with these current back line that he has, and you bring in a new coach who didn't bring the players in, so they're not really players that fit his system, there's growing pains, and that's what we've seen from Montreal this year. And we will continue to see that until they figure it out. And then last but not least, obviously, the Whitecaps, who haven't played a League's Cup game yet, but they played 2 games in the last 2 weeks. 2-1 victory over Kansas City in Vancouver. And then they had Houston come and visit them, who beat them 4-3 because they couldn't figure out how to stop them. Still questions for Vancouver as well. They're in a playoff spot. They're sitting in 5th in the West, so they're better off than the other two sides. TFC's in 8th. Montreal is in 11th. Vancouver is at Canada's best chance to go deep in the MLS playoffs right now, but I'm not confident with the way they're playing, and that's a big issue. Just the way they're playing right now, I'm not confident. They have players who are playing really well. Gould, obviously. Obvious one there.
Been that guy.
But they're inconsistent. They're very, very inconsistent. And like you even look at their record. You look at their record. Both home and away. Like their overall record is 11 wins, 8 losses, and 5 draws. Right? But let's look home and away. There's 5 wins at home, 6 wins on the road. 4 losses at home, 4 losses on the road. 2 draws at home, 3 draws on the road. They're just an inconsistent team. And at the beginning of the season, I thought they were playing really consistent. I don't know what changed because they looked fantastic through the first month and a half, almost 2 months of the MLS season. They looked great. And now they don't look as consistent. And I don't know what happened because they should be consistent. This is a team that's built to be consistent. And they're not. It's as simple as that.
It's unfortunate. I mean, it is a long season. I understand that. And you're playing through all kinds of different weather conditions in a sense. I know that the BC place is a little bit different. But I just mean, you start in the winter and then you go deep into the summer. And I just think that breeds a little bit of inconsistency. You know what I mean? Like,
but it shouldn't. Like, it really shouldn't.
It shouldn't.
They have a domed stadium.
Yes, in that respect, yes.
They really shouldn't change.
The week. But, yeah.
We'll see. I still hold out hope that they're going to find the consistency because they have goal scoring. The keeper's very good, Takaoka, and they have pieces there. They just need to find that consistency, and they just don't have it right now. So we'll see. That's all I got for you this week, Josh. Anything you want to add before we head out?
No. I'm just hopefully the ruling goes in our favor come Wednesday morning, and we can get a reduced point deduction to maybe 3.
Okay, so
just losing those 3 points.
So what I want to know, realistically, what do you think is a fair punishment then?
I think just that. I hope that is what it is. I can also
3?
see a world in which, I think if minus 3 points just for the game against New Zealand. I could see that happening. I hope I'm not completely out to lunch there, but
it could happen.
See that being the case.
It could happen. It could absolutely happen.
So, and then I'm looking forward to the Colombia match.
Yeah.
I think that this team plays well. Like when they have like they have that grit, they have an incentive to say like, and they've done it in the past where
Mm-hmm.
they leave the noise behind them, they band together, and they show that they're a fantastic football club. And I think that they'll continue to do that throughout this tournament. Like, what an incredible game. We didn't get to really talk too much about it, but just like that game against France was crazy. Like,
Yeah.
it truly was crazy. Like when Gilles put it in, I love when a center back goes up and she scored. Like Vanessa Gilles, great. Like it was cool. It was so cool to see. You know, obviously she plays her club football in France. Like we have a great team. We have a great team. So I'm excited about the football that we will get to play. You know, who knows? Who knows what can happen? So I'm looking forward to it, and that's what I'll leave everybody with. We should. It's been a dark episode. You know what I mean? Like not a lot of positives, but
But it's been
it's
an
hard to-
episode
it's
where
hard
we've had a lot to talk about, which is not necessarily a
Yes.
bad thing. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
some episodes we're not going to have a full plethora of conversations. This one we did. It wasn't all positive, but we now know a lot more about what's been going on for the last 5 years, and we know that things need to change. So
100%.
we'll get there. I guess that'll do it for us here at From the Supporter section. If you like the episode, please give us a like. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, Garage Door Sports Network, for all the latest episodes. If you do not like watching your shows, don't worry. We have you covered. Check out Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your favorite podcasts, because we are on there. Don't forget to like and subscribe there as well. And make sure you follow us on social media. Josh, drop the social media handle for me, please.
We're From the Supporter Section podcast on everything.
Yep.
Everything.
So there you go. We're FTSS Podcast, I believe.
Oh yeah, you're right. Damn. I dropped it. I fumbled the bag. I fumbled the bag.
I gave you the shot, and
I know. Sorry.
so make sure you follow us, FTSS Pod, and every single social media. We will be giving out content throughout the week as much as we can. Last week was a bit of a tough one, as we mentioned, but we will try to get you more content this week, and we will be obviously following the Olympics, so make sure you tune in there. Don't forget also, we didn't get a chance to talk about it this show just because of everything going on. U20 men's are into the quarterfinals of the U20 World Cup, or CONCACAF Championship. CONCACAF Championship, not the World Cup. Which is great. I think that's the first time we've made it to the U20 quarterfinals in like 4 tournaments or something like that. So big accomplishment there. A couple CPL players in that as well. So if you're a CPL fan, make sure you check that out. But until next time, I'm Nick McVicker. That is Josh Palermo. And we will see you next time.